This is the GTN Show, and after a tech-heavy show last week, we're going to be flipping on its head and debating whether all this tech in sport is a good thing or a bad thing.
Sounds like you're going out of your comfort zone a little bit there, Mark. Well, I'm interested to hear about that. We've also got gossip of a pro cyclist thinking about venturing into triathlon. We have the winners of our ASSOS and Quarq TyreWiz giveaway, as well as a Zwift Norseman competition.
Right, it's no secret, I kind of love my tech and my gadgets, but I have been wondering lately whether all this technology in sport, well, perhaps maybe there's actually a limit to all this technology in sport. Is technology in sport a bad thing? Is it ruining the sport? And I've come about this because I was reading an article recently about virtual reality running. So we've seen virtual reality glasses and stuff before. The idea is that you can wear these glasses and run with others online. You could maybe run the Boston Marathon course, which sounds awesome. I love the idea of it.
Whilst on a treadmill, I'm guessing.
I'm hoping so. Yeah, I don't know how it would work otherwise. But then the other part of me is thinking that's not what running's all about. And so, yeah, I'm kind of in this torn, is this technology good or is it a bad thing for the sport?
Yeah, I mean, it's great that it is developing and it's maybe getting people into sport because they like the competitive side of looking on Strava and getting their king of the mountains, queen of the mountains of running, or comparing to their mates and looking at your PBs and you're driven by that. But I mean, when we spoke to Emma Pallant for the running video, and she actually talked about how just still enjoys going for a run and the actual action of running without having to worry about pace and things. And I think, we can all be guilty of sometimes actually losing the purpose of running and that just pure enjoyment from it.
Exactly. And I think actually cycling is a really good example of this. The amount of technology it's coming through at a rate of knots.
Yeah.
There's constantly stuff. Like last week we were showing how much technology is coming through. And yeah, it's
exciting.
Yeah, and how many of us actually go out for rides without tracking kilometres, heart rates, power, and maybe buying new components that make us faster, reduce friction? We're all guilty of it.
And then there's that whole joke of like when my friends I ride with, and we're like, well, it's not on Strava, it doesn't count. If it's not been recorded, then you might as well have not ridden. Exactly. That's kind of an ingrained thing now, isn't it? It's becoming, and I guess it's not quite as much in running, but it's going that way that now, we've got Zwift running as well, and there's
power meters.
It's kind of following the cycling trend, like you're saying.
Yeah, and do we need that? I mean, if you look at a lot of traditional runners, remember running with Alistair and Johnny Brownlee on British triathlon camps, and they would not take a watch with them. You just go out there and enjoy it. And
so do you still run without a watch sometimes?
I do sometimes still run without a watch, but then I am guilty of looking. I'll go for some runs and I'm constantly looking at my speeds, my everything really. So I wonder and I worry whether we're going a little bit too far towards the tech side of things, whether it's necessary or actually is this actually the technology going to help towards enhanced performance? My gut feel is not, and I'm slightly worried by that. And
I think tech is, for me, the running side is great when the weather's really bad and you can't go outside, because I hate indoor training. But I think having something like that would actually help me stay on the treadmill longer, because for some reason a 30-minute run on treadmill, even with a TV to look at, feels like 3 times as long as a 30-minute run outside, and I'm probably going faster outside. I still don't get how your brain tricks you, but if it can make that easier when it's snowing outside or something, then that for me is a positive.
And another side to that you can take from it is for those that perhaps aren't doing sport or aren't running at the moment, this could be a really good incentive, or quite exciting to get them into sport.
Sure.
And maybe for the new generation of athletes, younger people coming through where tech is
those
their
young'uns.
Yeah, or maybe it should be a nice escape from that, and that's what running's all about. Who knows? Anyway, we're going to throw this to a poll and we're going to ask you guys, do you ever head out for a run, or do you go training without technology, without your watches, without your gadgets? And you can enter that, you can say yes or no by doing that, just clicking above Heather's head here. And now for last week's poll. It was...
Well, we asked you if you'd ever done an environmentally friendly triathlon. And, 18% of you said yes, and 82% of you said no. And I think that's purely just reflecting that we need to have more of those events available.
Yeah, I'm actually impressed it's even 18%.
Really? Okay.
Obviously I'm hoping it's more, but I don't know of many.
Have you
environmentally?
done one?
No, I haven't, because other than O to Low, which are trying to, but there aren't that many events around there. So, really impressed by that. Right, now for the CAPtion competition. And last week we had a photo from the World Cup in Tijivaras, and it was of a coach with the swimmer on a leash. Swimming. I don't know how better to explain that.
Pretty good description. Well, we actually had like more than normal, and it's really hard to narrow this down. So we've got three runners up and a winner this week. And our first runner up comes from Martin Kelly. You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I like it. Next one from Jubin Schleder said, "This training is getting to be a drag."
Yeah, good one.
Imagine.
And next, our final runner up comes from Joshua Greeley. This isn't the lead that I was hoping to take.
Imaginative, I like that one. Well, the winner, and this one is obviously touching a little bit on our environmental touch or theme to our video last week, our show last week, and that came from Nick Mick. They said, "This environmentally friendly wakeboarding is not as fast as I thought it would be." Very good. Your GTN cap is coming your way. Just get in touch and we'll send it across.
Right, well, this week we have, before we actually get to the final picture, there were a lot of great photos from the World Triathlon Series in Hamburg. And it was the mixed relay, which throws up some brilliant dives. And I know you've been admiring these, Mark.
Well, yeah, it seems to be a running theme now. So the guys really take it upon themselves within the mixed relay to perform the stupidest dives they can.
I can tell you want to do a mixed relay just for the dive.
I think there's a video in this, Heather. But anyway, let's run through a few because they're pretty good. I'm not sure what's going on in the first one, but they're clearly kind of gearing up for something. There's a lot of energy going on.
There's some hype.
Next one's really interesting. Almost like planking midair.
It's like he's been given a dare to see if he can do the biggest belly flop.
Yeah, or he's going to go for a head first dive.
And then into butterfly or something.
I've done that before. Doesn't end well.
And it's more the how do you get out of the head first dive because your arms are stuck by yourself.
Yeah, true. Now it gets better.
Oh, wow.
This is good. I mean, some style.
That's volleyball, isn't it?
There's some style points there. I'd give that a 9 out of 10. That's very good. And now finally, again, I think this one's gearing up for something. It looks, I don't know what's going to happen, but.
Yeah, he's got good height, but where it ends, who knows?
But it wasn't just in the men's race that things were interesting because it looks violent in that women's race.
There's some good elbows going on, that's for sure. It's more like a cross-country race coming out of the swim, and I'm guessing this is after the first wave because it's really close, and I wouldn't want to be in that mess there.
No. Well, we've also got one more diving shot, and this is going to be the CAPtion comp this week. Now, check this one out.
Oh, that is amazing.
Yeah.
He's even got his tri-suit is even like kind of a little tail flying off it as he's flying.
There's definitely some sort of like little gymnast move going on there, and he's got like touch his knees and I don't know.
Knees, toes, and then through to his head and shoulders the other way around.
Who knows? Well, please do leave your CAPtion comments in the comment section below. Well, now for the exciting bit, the bit that probably everyone has been waiting for, the giveaway time. It's time to announce them. So, first of all, the ASSOS winners.
Yeah, first up we have 2 winners for the men's shorts, the Keep Evo, and it is Robert Langer and Todd Holmes.
Congratulations. And now for the women's.
Well, the H La La Lay shorts will be going to Kloster Sadness and Kadja Rombi.
I have to say, you've really nailed those names.
I think I said them quickly.
Halalale. Very nice. Anyway, now for the Quark TyreWiz winners. And first of all, we've got Ricardo Giacomo de Lutio. I think I got that.
Almost
okay. And then we've got Make Oberman and then Eduardo Arisp. And we will be in touch with all those winners by email.
Right, it's time for Hot or Not, and our first story comes from the Norseman Xtreme Triathlon, which is one of the toughest, but also one of the hardest to actually get an entry for. And they've just partnered with Zwift to allow 2 people a slot for next year's race. But you don't just get it by entering, you've actually got to work for this. So they're going to have a race on Zwift over a course that they're making up, which basically you've got to do under 4 hours to then be in a chance to get into next year's race. And it's going to be happening at the same time as the Norseman this year.
Yeah, so as Heather's already said, it's going to be 4 races for the different time zones around the world. And that's going to take place on the 4th of August, 2018, the same day as the Norseman. And the course takes in 55.5 miles, which is 89.3 kilometers, with almost 7,000 feet or just over 2,000 meters of elevation gain within that. That's a lot of elevation gain within that distance.
To do that under 4 hours, yeah.
Yeah, so they're climbing every major mountain within the Watopia Island course. And yeah, Everyone that completes that will get the limited edition Norseman kit. And then those that go under 4 hours will be entered into a random draw.
Yeah, so if you win, you basically get to do it all over again next year, but for real.
Absolutely.
Well, that's pretty cool, and I think that's a hot. Right, this one's a slightly unusual story, and I'm sure a lot of people out there have done things to get out of tickets or parking tickets or traffic tickets. Well, this guy has gone to the extreme. Now, two drivers were changing lanes and they collided in the middle, and one of the cars ended up flipping over, going off the road and into the trees. And the driver of this car thought pretty quickly on his feet, and he didn't want to get apprehended by the police, so thought, I'm going to look like a jogger, quickly take some clothes off and start running by as though he was completely unaware of the accident.
Yeah. Great idea. Didn't work out for him though, did it? No, because the police caught up with him. But yeah, he did own up to the fact he was trying to be an uninvolved jogger. Great idea, but we can't condone this. This is a not. Okay, the next one, again, it's not a brand spanking new one, but it's something that's caught my eye. Relatively new. Now, it's a brand that used to be called Kokona. It's now rebranded as 37.5. And that number has come about because they've learned that the optimal heat for your body to perform at in the sport is 37.5 degrees Celsius.
Well, that's the equivalent of 99.5 Fahrenheit, I think.
Thank you very much, Hannah.
For those Americans out there. And basically it's, aimed at being able to keep your body cool when it's hot and warm when it's cold. So it's about managing that microclimate. And they use this in various fabrics, and it's thought that it can actually dry 5 times quicker than other performance fabrics.
And you missed a very important fact.
Yeah.
It comes from coconuts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, activated carbon.
Cool.
Who'd have thought it?
I think it's from the coconut shell, so hopefully that means there's more coconut water and coconut milk available, because I like that as well.
I mean, also the kit looks really cool. It's used in brands like Adidas, Salomon, so it's pretty reputable.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, like I said already, it looks cool, so I'm going to give it a hot. Okay, and the next one I'm quite excited to talk about because it's one of my sporting heroes and icons. It's Kílian Jornet. If you haven't heard of him already, he is an ultra marathon trail runner. He just does crazy stuff all the time. Last year he actually summited Everest twice within 1 week without oxygen.
You can't even comprehend this stuff. Well, we're talking about him this week because he has recently won the Bob Graham Round Ultra Endurance race, but it's more significant for the fact that he's absolutely smashed the record. So the race was 106 kilometres with over 8,200 metres of climbing, 42 fells. Now the cutoff is 24 hours, and apparently only about 2,000 people have ever managed to do it within that. It was set up in 1932, so that gives you an idea of how tough it is. Now, he did it in 12 hours, 52 minutes, breaking the record by over an hour that was 36 years old.
That's amazing. Oh, I love the guy. I love him. That's a hot.
Go on then. Next up for hot or not, you might have noticed, if you're an avid fan of the Tour de France, that Adam Hansen was missing from the Peloton. Now, he's known for being one of those that's often making the attacks, that's at the front of the group, but if you have been watching the coverage, he's out reporting for Eurosport. But there is some gossip about triathlon, apparently.
Yes, so this has come about on an online article, and he's basically been teased in the fact that he's quit cycling and maybe he's going into triathlon. And I wondered where this is all coming from, but it appears it's come from Cameron Worth, who we recently interviewed. He's riled him up, and actually Cam Worth knows that Adam Hansen used to do triathlon, which I didn't know, actually.
No.
And actually, Adam Hansen is quoted here saying, when he did triathlon, he said, cycling was my worst leg. I was a really good swimmer and I was a really good runner.
Wow.
And I joined a cycling club to improve my cycling. And he did laugh at the fact that he might be taking up triathlon. He said, it's not happening anytime soon. He's still sort of racing his bike, but he has alluded to the fact that he does really like the appeal of Ironman and the allure of sort of Kona. So he has said maybe in years to come, which is really exciting.
He's obviously got the talent there.
Yeah.
If his cycling was his weakest leg,
I could be great, yeah.
Wow.
So I'm going to give this a hot. Okay, now for some controversy within the New Zealand triathlon team. And it's regarding one of New Zealand's premier triathletes, Ryan Sissons. He was actually one of the fastest members of their mixed relay team for the Commonwealth Games. He actually, since then, was a little bit unhappy within the sport. He took a bit of time out, almost quit the sport, and since has decided, I'm going to come back to sport, but I'm going to join a new squad, train with a new group, and actually feels like he's performing better. But because New Zealand Triathlon don't know what he's doing in his training, I don't have enough information on it. They've decided not to include him, which has obviously left him very upset, and given the talent, he could have potentially been very useful for them.
Yeah, I know it's obviously left a very bitter taste in his mouth, and there's always two sides to every story, and we don't know what's going on down there, but it's the frustration for him is black and white, and it's sad to see a talented athlete not included in a team. So I think for us it is a not. Right, we are midway through National Triathlon Week. Admittedly, it is a concept for the USA. It's the second year that they've run this Triathlon Week. And I think it's great that you're getting more people to do triathlon, making people more aware of it. And they quote that they are concentrating this week on being celebration, education, and participation.
Lovely. Well, their schedule for this week is what they say. Is it Monday, swim day, Tuesday, bike day, Wednesday, run day, Thursday, recovery.
Yes.
Friday, member appreciation day. I don't know quite what that involves. It sounds like a bit of a party.
It does, but it sounds like it's a bit too early with what's coming.
Because Saturday and Sunday are race day.
Oh.
Very cool. I love it. We should bring it into the UK.
I think we should. Yeah. Anything to raise awareness and get more people doing triathlon's got to be good.
Brilliant. Well, we're going to give this a hot. Okay, now for the race news, and we're going to start things this week with Xterra Czech Republic. So in the men's race, it was Maxime Shane that led the swim out, and then about 20 seconds back, we had Sam Osborne and Ben Allen. And then just under 2 minutes back from them, we had Ruben Ruzafa. And actually, Ruben Ruzafa absolutely hammered the bike. By the 19-kilometre mark, he had caught the leaders and put 40 seconds into them. Quite impressive. And then into the final stage of the bike, it became quite technical, quite hard conditions. Ruben Ruzafa absolutely smashed that, no problems at all, whilst others actually got punctures and crashed. Ruzafa went on to win it. Bradley Weiss came through to take second, and then Lucas Kovar took third.
Well, on the women's side, it was quite spread out after the swim. So we had Samantha Kingsford coming out first, but then it was actually 4 minutes back to Helena Karaskova, who was competing in front of her home crowd. Now, she hasn't won this race before, but it wasn't until the run and the bike that actually made the difference in this event. And she came through on the run to take the win in front of that home crowd. It was Karina Vassler who finished second, and then Elizabeth Orchard was third. Well, this next race had all sorts of rumours ahead of it about cancellations due to algae in the swim and fires on the bike. And yes, it was in the UK. It's England's only full-distance IM Bolton. Now, apparently the water levels of algae meant that there was no swimming a few days before, and there was all sorts of rumours around the bike course. But it went ahead, and the swim was actually full distance, but it was so warm in the UK that there was no wetsuits allowed for the pros, so that did throw things up a little bit. But it was a bike course that caused more issues, I suppose. They had to shorten it, so it came down to just 95 miles instead of 112, but it was also a different course, so the athletes weren't familiar with it. And it meant that the cycling for the pro men was about 45 minutes less on the bike and about 52 minutes less for the women.
Well, into the men's race, and it's Balas Coates of Hungary that led the swim out. And the next fastest swimmer was 2 minutes behind him. And then 5 minutes behind the lead swimmer was Joe Skipper. Quite a big deficit. But on to the bike, and that's where everything went a little bit wrong, because we had one of the favourites for the race, Will Clark, actually went 9 miles off course and then suffered a mechanical. Balas Coates actually had a mechanical, so he was out of the race. So it was actually Mark Juleson who came in with the fastest bike split of the day. He came into T2 first, and then it was Joe Skipper that actually had the fastest run of the day, 2:45 marathon splits. That saw him take the lead and take the eventual win. It was Mark Juleson that took second, and then it was Fabian Rahn that took third.
Well, due to it being a non-wetsuit swim for the women, the times were a bit slower, but this didn't deter Lucy Gossage. She had a 2-minute advantage coming out of the water, and then backed that up with the fastest bike split of the day, the second fastest run of the day, to take the overall win by a whopping, more than 30 minutes. And that was actually her 5th Ironman UK title.
Wow.
Impressive. Well, second place went to Camilla Lindholm Borg, and then third, it was Angela Nath.
And then just to add to that, we also had the Zwift Tri Academy, Bex Rimington, taking part in her first ever Ironman. I think it's fair to say she did pretty well, because she was the fastest age grouper overall, 20 minutes ahead of second place in her age group. to secure her first ever Kona spot. So congratulations to her.
Pretty cool. Right, next we've got the WTS Hamburg, which was the 5th of the series, and it looked like it was going to be a pretty open race because there's a few athletes who returning from injury and maybe aren't full fitness, like Flora Duffy and Johnny Brownlee. And on the women's side, it definitely did throw up a surprise winner. It started off with a lead from Jess Learmonth and Summer Cook, but they were soon chased down on the bike. It was a group of Flora Duffy included in that, and it became 6 riders, and they looked like they were going to be pretty strong for much of the bike, but it wasn't until I think the final lap, the bell, that then this chasing pack, which included Katie Zaferes and Nicola Spirig, who were doing a lot of the work, saw that they had to make that move, and they closed, I think, pretty much just as they came into T2. So it meant it was going to be a 5k running race. Now, we haven't seen Nicola Spirig race for a while, but she was certainly strong. She led the run out, but then it was actually Cassandra Beaugrand who had a lot of work to do. She got, I think, dropped off that group somehow coming out of T2, but she caught up and she didn't really look back and opened up this lead, which I think some of them thought, oh, she'll come back to us. She never did. So the young French girl went away to take her first WTS win, quite convincingly, and then it ended up being a bit of a sprint finish again for Katie Zaferes with Laura Lindemann in front of her home crowd, and it was Laura Lindemann who finished second, just 1 second ahead of Katie Zaferes in third, and Nicola Spirig finished fourth.
Well, that sounds like a very exciting
I think
race.
It was.
I love the sprint distance because it's just like, it's full gas and so tactical because everyone's trying to drop the others. And it was the same in the men's race because it was Martin van Riel and Vincent Louis that led the swim out, and then Jonathan Brownlee just around 9 seconds back, and then there was a bigger gap back then to Mario Mola and Richard Murray, who they're obviously trying to drop. Onto the bike, there was a small breakaway of about 11 men on the first lap, and then on the second lap there was a 3-man breakaway from Jonathan Brownlee, Christian Blumenfeld and Vincent Louis, and that managed to stay away until the end, and when they came into transition they had about 20 seconds on Mario Mola, and those guys looked like they were maybe going to maintain it, but Mario Mola just clawed back and managed to take the lead from Jonathan Brownlee with about 1.5 kilometres to go. Looked like Jonathan might hang on to second, but then Murray and Louis both came through for a surge right at the end, and it's actually Louis that took second, and then Murray that took third, and then Jonathan had to settle for fourth.
Well, just one day after the individuals at WTS Hamburg, it was the World Championships team mixed relay, and all the teams put together a pretty strong quartet. I mean, this was the first World Championships within the Olympic qualifying period as well, and it was fast, furious, and there were so many changes throughout this race. It was obviously hosted by Germany. They had quite a lot to get excited for at the beginning because Laura Lindemann handed over just in the lead, but I think that soon changed and it became a group again in the second leg in the men's, and then it was Dorian Connings with a strong run to finish who handed over with France just in the lead. So Cassandra Beaugrand, who'd won in the women's individual, set off in front, but she was soon caught by the chasing girls, and I think it became a group again. But she did then manage to hand over just in the lead to France to Vincent Louis. It was Katie Zaferes who was hot on her heels, and that was then on to the final leg.
Wow, Vincent Louis didn't really need to look back because he set blistering run split. He went on to take the win and made it a very successful weekend for France. They took the mixed team gold, they took gold in the women's race and silver in the men's. But it was the race for silver and bronze that got really exciting because we had Jacob Birtwistle from Australia who started off in 5th place, but we know how good a runner he is. He actually passed 4th place Great Britain Tom Bishop. He then went on to end up in a sprint finish with USA and ended up taking second. USA took a third, and in 4th it was Great Britain.
Right, next, it was another ITU race. It was the ITU Long Distance World Championships held in Denmark. Now, this race is a 3k swim, 120k bike, followed by a 30k run. And in the women's race, it was pretty much the top 4 stayed together on the swim and the bike, so it meant it came down to a running race. And it was Hella Fredriksson, who finished second last year at Worlds, competing in front of her home crowd, got the fastest run of the day to take the overall win. So I think she was delighted in front of that, doing it literally in front of her friends and her family. Second place went to Barbara Riveros, and then third, with a bit of a fading run, it was Annabelle Luxford.
Well, over in the men's racing, it was Pablo de Pina Gonzalez that came out of the swim pretty much with the lead, just 2 seconds back, and then he overcame a 36-second deficit after the bike, but then posted a race best run split of 1:47 for the 30 kilometres to take the win. In second, it was Rudy Wild, and in third, it was Marco Albert. Just after the show last week, we had the ITU Cross Triathlon World Champs. Now, interestingly, a lot of these athletes raced this race and then head over to race Xterra Czech Republic, which is quite impressive. Just, well, more or less than a week apart, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, in the men's race, it was Ruben Rizafa that took the win. In second, it was Sam Osborne. In third, it was Brice de Board. And interestingly, in fourth, we had the Xterra world champion, Bradley Weiss.
Yeah, well, on the women's side, it was Leslie Passon who took the win. We haven't actually seen her doing that much Xterra yet this year. It was Nicole Walters, who's been consistent on the Xterra circuit, who finished second. And in third, it was Eleonora Peroncini. Right, it's time for the GTN Tribe. And this week, admittedly, we are staying in the UK, but we're going back in time a little bit to start with because it's North Shields Polytechnic Athletics Club, which was founded in 1903 as a walking and cycling club. Now, I mean, I point out to you that, you know, they could have realised about triathlon a bit sooner, but you pointed out it's walking, not running.
But then lends itself very well to Ironman with the Ironman Shuffle, so they're well set up with the walking, actually.
But having said that, it did take them 110 years before they actually entered into triathlon. So 2013, they got their triathlon licence from the British Triathlon Federation.
Yeah, very impressive. And they now say that they have, well, they've got around a dozen members or so that have represented Great Britain or in group teams through different disciplines. They've said in its first season, they had around a dozen people taking part in events, and this year they'll have easily over 50. So they've really come on as a club, really impressive. They also say that they've got members competing in Ironmans, they've got them in the Isomans, the Brecker swim runs, good guys, and the Slateman.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's fairly competitive in the local region as well. Not exactly sure what the event is, but they seem like they've got a point to prove next year because they lost out this year at the Northeast Team GP title by just 1 point when the overall points were 2,000. So I think that gives you an idea of how close it was. But they do say the consolation was they still have the overall individual winner.
Very cool. And yeah, looking through some of the photos, they look like a very active and fun club. They've got some athletes competing abroad. It looks like a Spanish race there.
And obviously some competitions in what I would guess is the UK.
Very British to me.
All right, well, that's it for this week's show. And if you want to catch all of our videos, make sure you don't miss any. Just hit the globe to subscribe. And if you're interested in the team mixed relay that we talked about in this week's show, we've made a video explaining exactly how it works just here.
And if you'd like to see our latest Triathlon Training Explained show, where we look into doing a post-race analysis, why you should do it and how you do it, we can see that by clicking just here.